this mid-market has had a growth system now for the last 25 years. One of the things that's shifting, and perhaps already has shifted, uh, really post-pandemic, is the rate and amount and continuity of change. And so, while change has always been a part of business, I think in some of the mid-market where it's less leading edge technology driven, where it's been a bit more um, um, vitally important types of businesses, but think of it as an everyday, we have to make a product or a service and deliver it well, have happy customers, have engaged employees. So that whole space where there's growth, but it's not, 20 to 30% to 100% growth necessarily. It's good, consistent growth and profitability for the ownership group or the owner and his or her team. And we've had a lot of those, thousands of those companies have used this growth system. Hundreds of thousands have been exposed to it. So I would be confident in saying that tens of thousands of mid-market companies have used some version of scaling up, EOS traction, 4DX, some other framework with a quarterly planning model with clear priorities. So that said, when I came on board about 10 years ago, after selling a couple of companies and having some success and some failure using these systems, I began coaching and I started to say, well, I would really like to be a trusted advisor and coach to help other mid-market companies. And so this growth system, you need one of those. If you don't have one of those, you got to have that in place. And so that was usually my starting point. We would start with a version that Capricorn had developed using something called Execution Maximizer, which was my first certification, which again was connected to the Rockefeller Habits Scaling Up DNA. And so it's about priorities. It's about having a good, strong meeting rhythm and cadence for information flow. It's about having clarity on your culture. And so those things are not my creation. They are not my ingenuity, but it's borrowing from these best practices and these other tools that have been growing and growing and growing over the last 25 years. So 10 years ago, began doing that myself with companies, worked with almost 80 companies directly now. I've spoken in front of CEO groups around the world to thousands of companies about these elements, these tenets, this growth system, this leadership development piece for Capricorn. And so the environment is no longer relatively predictable. What worked last year, maybe we'll fund it a little more, we'll lean in a little more here, we'll improve the product or service here. Everything has shifted. Everything has changed. I don't know where it exactly began, but let's just say it began around COVID. So when COVID-19 happened, going to work, going to the office changed. The genie was let out of the bottle. Our teams, many of them that could, knowledge workers, engineers, et cetera, managers could work from home or work remotely or work in a hybrid environment. Huge shift globally to how we work and what the workplace means and how to have culture, connection, accountability, and all those things. It's just different. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm saying it's just different. So that was a huge bit of change with our employees, our teams, our associates, whatever you call them. But the members of our organizations have different expectations. Our customers have different expectations. Ever since Amazon shipping things and making recommendations, it's been totally changed. Netflix totally changed what it means to access content and that user experience of being able to get these great recommendations and just go down these rabbit holes. The YouTube algorithms, all of these things have shifted our customers and employees' expectations of what it means to work and buy. So it's different. I think there's no question that the reliance on technology, everything from having a PC on every desk to having Windows in most office environments to having Macs for the creative types that think differently, and then ultimately everyone's got a mobile device. 2007 was the iPhone, and so call it 2010, 10 to 15. Everyone's got a device or multiple devices. They're ubiquitous. They are everywhere, all ages, whether they're pads or phones or laptops, doesn't matter. It's computing everywhere, anywhere. So customer expectations have changed, our employees' expectations have changed, the technology and how we interface with information has changed. The geopolitical situation has continued to change. Whether that's not to be political at all, but from a geopolitical perspective, things are just different now. We're really moving away from a full globalization world where supply chains are secure and reliable, and we have this hyper specialty in different industries and different parts of the supply chain to make things happen in a complex world. Those have been disrupted again by COVID and by geopolitics, and now we've got continuing shifts in demographics, political ideologies, tariffs, whatever those are. It's changing the landscape of how we buy things, how we source things, how we manufacture things, all changing. And then, of course, very recently in the whole timeline, AI has become just a normal thing. In the last few years, everyone can go to a chat bot and search differently, prompt differently, access information, get a lot more support. So what does it mean to be entry level or data entry when you don't need those things in the same way anymore? So again, huge shifts in how we hire, how we bring people on, what our expectations are. All of those things, I would say, to borrow a phrase from the military and then from really the probably again 25, 30 years ago in the 90s, this idea of VUCA, a VUCA environment, that we are living in a VUCA world. VUCA, VUCA stands for, those four words are volatile, the increasing pace of change in the way that we establish business practices and we operate. It's just faster and faster change, very volatile environment. Uncertain. There isn't stability, this predictability, then to know what to expect from our forecasting based on the past. It's very different. We just aren't sure anymore. It's going to be different in how we connect the dots for our people, how do we lead in that environment. It's very different. The complexity has gone way up. This isn't just a complicated business machine to sort of figure out and get a hierarchical structure. And once we get it set with rules and processes, it'll be fine. It's complex. The complexity means it is about human systems, which are very different in all of the variables that go into impacting decision making in a complex environment. And then again, it's ambiguous. So volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Ambiguous is just about disruption. The rules are different. What used to sort of be taken for granted needs to be rethought. So in that VUCA environment, as leaders, CEOs, presidents, founders, people leading an organization, to believe that you, or I'll put it in my shoes, me, when I look in the mirror, when I led 20 years ago, it's very different. The things that I need to do, the things I need to figure out, the things I need to be prepared for, educated about, it's just very different. So in a VUCA world, I have no potential success on my own. I need to have a team. I need to have partners. I need to have teammates that I can collaborate with. I really need to continue to learn different things in different ways. And so does the organization. Without that, the chances of you succeeding, the chances of your organization still being around in 5 to 10 years are very, very small. So when I think about the next 25 years, everything's different. The technology is different. The employee base is different. The demographics, the geopolitical situation, it's all different. So whether you're 60 reading this or 40 reading this, the next 25 years, when we think about getting to 2050 and beyond, can't imagine what that world's going to look like. We have no way to get a degree or a certification and be all ready for that. We have to learn together in a collaborative environment and still, as the CEO, provide enough direction and enough ability to make a decision based on the best inputs you have from all these wonderful inputs and make those decisions with your team. And then I'll empower your team to make decisions relevant to their areas and then learn from those decisions and adjust accordingly. That to me is the future way. So you need to have a growth system in place. Then you need to work on this team and the other inputs around you, always facing this VUCA environment as a united, aligned front to help learn and grow faster and adapt It's building off of great proven principles for the last 25 years for the mid-market of having priorities and clarity and measurables and all of those important things that you just got to have. And then it's working with that team that's no longer dysfunctional, that's no longer fighting for ego and budget, but they're coming together from their different angles, their different departmental functional expertise to help solve the business challenges around strategy. And what markets should we play in? Should we buy that company? Should we spin off that company? Should we invest here or there? Focus more to core or make sure we can expand. Doing that alone, it's just not going to work. Regardless of what type of business you want to have, if you can shift it from you from an I sort of framing to a we framing, that gives you more options. To have a great team with a growth system in place and a lot of work together on learning and adapting to the VUCA environment, that's going to give you more options to exit no matter what. I cannot tell you how many meetings I go to where people are looking for clarity. So clarity comes back to communication and decision making. If we're not clear, what are we not clear about? What is it that you don't understand or that has not been decided? That creates lack of clarity. So if we have an aligned, healthy team, an aligned, healthy organization, you're still going to face issues. You're still going to have a VUCA environment to navigate. But if you're not creating internal, unforced errors from dysfunction and sort of nonsense, that lost energy, if you're really focused on we are in it together to do what's right for this organization, now we can expend the effort to figure out what's right for the organization and then make a decision. Ideally, I look at Collins, his guidance from BE 2.0 on this. There's consensus driven, and consensus gets a bad rap. It's awesome if a team, say it's six to eight leaders. So let's say there's 7 people in the room. If the 7 people all agree, this is the answer to a question, that's awesome. That's fantastic. But if 5 out of the 7 agree, that's still pretty awesome. That's pretty great. That's still consensus. If it's a split 4-3, maybe not as consensus, but what we can do then is shift to what the ultimate decision-making method, which is participative. Getting all of the inputs from your trusted team, getting all the inputs from the external sources, from your board, perhaps, on these big decisions, but making the call or presenting it to the board for them to make the call. Either way. But ultimately, getting people to participate truly, authentically, by sharing what they think and why, and giving you good, valid reasons and doing the homework to say this feels like the right way to go. If you have 7 people or 6 people around the table doing that for you, and then you make the call, you've made a well thought out decision. And then you get to see if it was right or not. You get to see what the market says, or your employees say, or what the results look like in 3 months. And if it's not the right decision, change it. There are very few decisions, very few, that you can't go back and change. So not every decision is bet the farm decision. Not every decision is something you can't walk back. Some are. Those may take a little more time, but the process is the same. Getting a good, healthy team that's in it for the right reasons for the organization to give you their inputs after some real honest work to figure out what the options are, make the call. To me, that is what are the benefits of having a good growth system, which is keeping things moving, executing. More time then to focus on your leadership, your team's leadership, get the support network from around you, and then make the call. That to me is the power of really leaning into the collaborative environment where we learn and adapt together. And that's how we're going to lead the organization through the next 25 years. Thanks.